Coming up on this episode, a short but sweet one about the power of words, specifically our vocabulary and labels. Up next on Themindhere. Hey, what is up everyone? It's Theguyhere, and welcome back to another episode of Themindhere, the bi-weekly podcast where I talk about new knowledge I've learned, projects I'm working on, and current events. Topics may be random, but I hope that with each episode you can come away with a fresh perspective on the universe. Welcome to all of you who are here for the first time. If you like my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. All right, let's begin with the breakthrough section here, and this is about words. Now, this topic was inspired by an article about. It was talking about emotional intelligence and how more words and vocabulary in the area of emotions, more words to describe emotions, can help your emotional intelligence be able to describe things better. And one of the points they brought out were the fact that if you have more words and more nuances for the emotions that you have, then you can process your emotions better and respond better because you're able to differentiate between something like frustration and desperation, for example, if instead of just mad or bad feeling, right? If you lump them all together, then a universal response to all of that might not be a great response in general to everything, but if you can sort of segment them into different scenarios with these emotions, then you're better able to address them, right? So I took this a step further, and I like to generalize everything as best as I can whenever I see things like this, right? So it's talking about emotions and how vocabulary can help with the categorization, and that categorization will influence how you think about it and how you are able to process it, right? So what if we took a step back and applied this to literally any other subject, every other subject, right? You could talk about economics, politics, mathematics, right? Sciences. You can apply it to basically anything. And when I thought this a little, sometimes it doesn't work out when I generalize, but this one seemed like it could work out, and I don't have any evidence to back it up besides maybe anecdotal evidence. But if you generalize this and think about the more words that you have to describe an economic system, then the more you're able to recognize patterns in them, right? Because you have this framework now of these different economic systems, and you're able to see it. And if you're not interested in that or knowledgeable of that, maybe consider mathematics, right? If you're able to describe something as a plane or a conic section versus just a circle or a square, something like that, right? Then you're able to see more patterns and know of more properties that you can manipulate and deal with. So this is something that's pretty powerful here. And words, of course, have a huge impact on how we do things. But here we're looking at the vocabulary and how we're able to better categorize and then use that categorization, the labels that we put onto these things, to better be able to process the world around us and how we think. Because these words aren't only just helping us to process what's around, but also how we think and deal with our surroundings, right? Because if we have the ability to think and say something is a certain conic section or a certain political system versus just, it's just everyone votes here, or this is something that's very round looking, then you're able to get into sort of the details of it, right? And you're able to sort of think in ways that you normally wouldn't be able to before. So this is something that I thought I'd bring out, and something worth thinking about as you go through your journey through academics, or if you've already passed that journey, you're still learning about things, right? So even in the workplace or whatever you're doing after or before academics, you can think about how words impact how you operate and do things here. But one thing that I wanted to also bring up with the idea of labeling and with vocabulary is how the words we choose to use when we label. Because when we label something, then we think in terms of that label we give it, right? So it's important here, and I want to differentiate between labels that are more permanent and labels that are more temporary. So for example, when you say someone is depressed, that is very permanent, right? That when you say that someone is something, that tends to be a lot more permanent of a characteristic. They are tall, they are small, for example, right? So that's a lot more permanent versus saying, okay, they have depression or they are not having a good day, for example, right? Those are more temporary. They hold on to these certain political views versus they are of this political group. Notice the difference there between saying that they are this political group when you say you are something that is a lot more permanent versus they hold these political views or they hold these ideas, right? That implies that the person is sort of separated away from those ideologies or these other characteristics. And when you're able to separate that person out from it, then I think you're better able to, have conversations about the certain thing that we've extracted from the person. We've removed the ego from things like political ideologies, from opinions on clothing and fashion, for example. So if we disagree on this aspect, then you don't necessarily have to attack the person because it's no longer intertwined. We now have separated it so that we can argue about these ideologies and these other things that are separate from the person, but still feel love and feel that this person themselves are important people. So that is something crucial that I wanted to bring up, because this, in the environment that we are in right now, where there's a lot of polarization and everyone just seems to be out there to attack each other, try to find a way to separate the person from these thoughts and ideologies and everything else that you might think of as more permanent. Now, of course, there are some things that are more permanent, like your DNA composition and certain traits, but a lot of things are more malleable than we think. Our personalities can change over time. So instead of having that solely and permanently stuck to a person, maybe see if you can word it in a different way to separate it out. Instead of saying they're short-tempered, maybe say they tend to do things on a moment's notice or something like that, right? They tend to complete work at the last minute. The usage of qualifiers that bring a little bit of a probability to certain things is also pretty crucial, because let's face it, we're not just always a procrastinator or always someone that leaves stuff behind, leaves trash behind. There's some people might do it more often than others, but it's always going to be a sort of distribution. So instead of thinking in a Newtonian fashion where everything's very deterministic, think in terms of probabilities a little more, that there's a good chance that this will happen, but if it doesn't, then it's that off chance, so that you're not thrown off and drive yourself into conspiracy theories when the off chances happen. So those are some things that I wanted to bring up about words and how powerful they are when we use them, the importance of building vocabulary in multitude of areas so that we can we're better able to describe our realities and to think with more flexibility, but also to remember that our labels are important, and our ability to separate the person from the other characteristics will be crucial when we deal with differing opinions and other actors. So this episode is a bit short because right now I'm in the process of moving. This episode was recorded the day before because I'm flying home on the day that this episode comes out. So it's going to be a bit short because I still have to do packing and get things ready, but I still have time to reflect a bit on some of my past progress the past 2 weeks, and also some shots that I want to call for the 2 weeks coming up before the next episode. So the last episode I talked about essentially moving, finishing up the co-op session that I have here, and also that Grinch Simulator plugin. I believe I said that I was going to finish it, but in any case, the milestones I set out for that plugin, I've been a bit behind on, maybe a day or two behind. And I do feel, I feel bad that I'm behind on this, but I also I'm decently proud with the progress that I've made. I've been able to make this plugin into, get it into a state where it's playable, and players can, once it's set up properly, they can go and play on this plugin. I've yet to see it put out into production because it was released very, very late in today. The day that I'm recording this, probably Saturday. So again, bit on the timing. I want to improve that, but I am still pretty proud of the progress that I've been able to make and the sort of problem solving that I've been able to do. And of course, I plan on, for this plugin, I've been recording the progress that I've been making, just sort of like a B-roll of myself coding things up for a video coming up about this plugin. So that's something to look forward to, but that's something a little bit into the future. I don't even know if I'll be able to finish it by the end of this calendar year, because of just needing to finish the plugin itself and then getting ready for the next semester. But that's something coming up. But the reflection-wise, yeah, that's something that I would like to improve on, and just overall improve my ability to be on time with this. I really don't have an excuse for not being on time, because there were some days that I just felt super lazy and there wasn't that motivation for that, but that's no excuse for not hitting the milestones, right? So just some reflections on the past 2 weeks of progress. Now, you can probably predict what the next 2 weeks are going to be like, mostly because of the holidays. I'm going to be taking a bit of time off there, but I do want to get the Grinch Simulator plugin, minigame plugin, finished up and get that rolling out and get started on that video process. And also on that Villager Defense plugin, I'm going to be continually working on those two to refine them up. So those will be things that I'll be continually working on, and something that I'll be going on with. But in the next 2 weeks, probably a bit light. Something that I do want to improve on before I head off to the next semester is refining my habits. And I've probably said this several times, but with the rush of making the plugin, I've just sort of kicked other habits to the side, like exercise, and sleep has taken a toll there too. So I want to improve those back up. Those were intentionally sacrificed in this case because I needed to get this done. But I want to build that back up, getting back into the routine of waking up early and doing more morning runs and getting all that exercise in throughout the day, then be able to wrap up the day and head to bed, get some good sleep. So refining those habits before I go back to the next semester. And I think that with the move, it's going to help a bit to sort of make a mental reset and wash away some of the bad habits that sort of built up like a plaque the past several months in this session. So it's a good way to clear up, and I hope that I'm going to do my best to get those habits back up. So those are the things that we'll be looking forward to. And I will still be putting out that episode in 2 weeks. So this will be something that'll be ongoing. So those are things to look forward to in the next 2 weeks. But anyways, that will be it for this episode. Thank you all so much for watching. I appreciate the support that you all have given me. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to leave them down in the comments section below. Take care, stay humble. This is Theguyhere, out.